Tonight on Fourth and a Mile is Richie Incognito, now Richie Vindicito. That'll make sense here in a few minutes. The FBI is bouncing the balls, about to slam dunk on NCAA college basketball. Is football next? And, oh, I forgot my microphone. Look at that. That's horrible, Adam. And I give my top 5 second basemen if I were to start a MLB franchise. Stay tuned. Welcome in, my friends, to the show that will not end. This is Fourth and a Mile, presented by Planet Adam. I am your host, the Pharaoh of Planet Adam, or God King, if you will. I am Adam Fernandez. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. This has been one crazy Friday. I hope everyone out there is having a great Friday. And if you're out there having a few drinks, awesome. Just make sure you guys aren't drinking and driving. Get home safe. I don't want to hear about you guys or see you guys on Facebook tomorrow. That you got into some really bad accident and wanting prayers and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to see that. Get home safe tonight if you guys are out partying. But I'm going to do my own kind of partying here, and this is talking about sports. So before we get underway, though, guys, don't forget, go over to bandcamp.com. Check out A Bloody Chasm. That is my friends Jocelyn Gonzalez, Matt Hutton, and the rest of the band of Bloody Chasm. They got 4 or 5 songs on there. Check them out. They'll appreciate it, I'm sure. It's not that hard to do. It's just go over there and search for A Bloody Chasm. And I'm trying to pull up my notes here so we can get started. Okay, first off, today is the first day of spring training baseball games. Spring training's been going on for about 2 weeks now. This is the first day where the games are actually going on. The games don't count to your average human being, but to me, they count. That's what matters. So if it's baseball, it counts to me. Granted, it's all a bunch of double and triple A guys that don't stand a chance of making the team playing today. There's the occasional one or two that will, but the majority of these guys are just guys trying to get some work in and hoping to possibly make the team. But it's been a fun day as far as that goes, as far as I'm concerned at least, because again, I'm a huge baseball fan. I think I sounded like Trump there. Did I sound like Trump? That's kind of what I was going for. Anyways, so I wasn't expecting to do this story at all here until about 15, 20 minutes ago when I read the article. Casey Stern, who writes for 101 Sports and for MLB.com, left a scathing article for the St. Louis Cardinals. I am a St. Louis Cardinal fanatic. That's my boy Yadier right there. In it, he says the Cards fans deserve better. They have plenty of money, but they haven't been spending it. And he's asking if Marcell Ozuna, Miles Mikolas, and Luke Gregerson would be enough to compete. And he kind of doubts it. I like the Ozuna deal. The other two, I'm not too sure myself, especially Luke Gregerson is the closer. I'm not big on that one. And so he's skeptical that the ownership and John Mozeliak don't believe that the Cardinals can win this year. And so what they're trying to do is get into the sweepstakes for next year for someone like Bryce Harper. And so they're not wanting to spend a lot of money because they want to be able to afford Bryce Harper. He says, let's be fair, the ownership right now is being cheap. To which I have to tell Mr. Stern, I agree with you 100%. 100%. Yes, you got Marcell Ozuna. You got him for 2 years because after the 2 years, he's a free agent. So it looks to me like you're trying to set up signing Bryce Harper or Manny Machado in the offseason. And you know that they're going to be worth huge amounts of money. They're going to try to get what Giancarlo Stanton's getting. And so you're not wanting to go out there and spend money right now to win. When, in all honesty, you don't necessarily need Bryce Harper or Manny Machado to win. You have a roster right now that can compete, but I don't see them winning. What you should have done, John Mozeliak, was try harder for Eric Hosmer. You should be trying to get Mike Moustakas. You should have gone after Jake Arrieta. I'm not a big Arrieta fan. I don't think he's great, but I think he's solid. I think he's good. I think he could be a good middle of the rotation starter. But y'all didn't do any of that. You picked up Luke Gregerson and Miles Mikolas, who has not pitched in the major leagues since 2013. And you're expecting us to say that, oh, well, you know what? They really improved the team. No. You guys have not improved the team since last year. The only thing that you've done to improve the team since last year is Marcell Ozuna. And again, 2 years, he's a free agent. So, what have you guys done? You promised Cardinal fans all over the country that you were going to improve the team drastically. You were going to have an off season where you're making a lot of moves because you have a lot of money due to this new TV deal that you guys signed 2 years ago, mind you, that you have still not made any moves with. And if you really want us to buy into you guys are going to be trying for Bryce Harper, well, look at it like this. You tried to re-sign Jason Hayward. You failed. You tried to trade for Giancarlo Stanton. You failed. Do you really expect that the Cardinal fans are going to say, well, we got Bryce Harper locked up? No. Because you guys penny pinch even with those big deals. So, right now you're pissing a lot of the Cardinal fans off, like myself. And you know what? I might be, come July, August, eating a big fat shitburger. Very much so, for criticizing you guys the way I'm criticizing you. But my guess is that it's more likely going to be that I'll be able to sit here in July and August, look in this camera right here, and tell you guys, what the fuck did I tell you? You guys have gone and done absolutely nothing for this team. You failed in getting Giancarlo Stanton. That's why you settled for Ozuna. And you know what? Ozuna is a great ball player. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm not trying to degrade him. But he's not Giancarlo Stanton. You guys failed in getting him over here. Whatever it is that you guys told him or told Miami, you failed. And yes, I'm not drinking Dr. Pepper tonight. I went out to Red Robin and got me the Nana Nana Boo Boo shake. Or Nana Nana Moo Moo, I'm sorry. Nana Nana Moo Moo shake. It's half banana, half chocolate. It's fucking delicious. So, anyways. So, Bill DeWitt. Well, Bill DeWitt Jr. Or is it the third? No, it's Bill DeWitt the third. And John Mozeliak, you guys need to get your shit together. Start spending some money. Moustakas is still out there. Moustakas is a proven power bat. He can play third base. Right now, that's one of the areas that we're kind of weak in. We have Jed Jerko, who had a really good 2015 or 2016. Started off having a really good 2017 and then just completely fell off. I don't have a lot of faith in Jed Jerko. I don't think a lot of Cardinal fans have a lot of faith in Jed Jerko. So, you guys have had the opportunity to get deals done to make this a winning, viable club this year, and instead you're more than willing to settle for third. Why? Apparently it's because you're trying to get Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. But I hate to tell you this, in the past, we'll say 10 years, you have failed every single time a big name free agent has come up. And I am not buying that you're not going to fail this time. And you're going to come back and say, we tried our hardest to get him. But, and that's what you're going to say. And I'm sorry, I will not take that. If you sign Bryce Harper in the offseason, if you sign Manny Machado in the offseason, fine. You know what? I'll say, okay, good job. But then I'll also say, where the fuck did we finish this year? And I'm sorry to be using all this profanity on you, being that the show will be going on YouTube. I know they kind of shun on the profanity now. But that's about how I feel about it. You guys have failed miserably in the past. You're failing us right now. And I have a good suspicion that you guys are going to fail us in the future. So something needs to shape up. If the Cardinals go into July and are playing 500 ball, Matheny out. Put Jose Oquendo in there. If they're playing 500 ball, then you need to go ahead and start making some trades to make us viable for next year. So you can afford Bryce Harper. If he wants a $300 million contract, you go out and you give him a $300 million contract. Because you know what? He's better than Stanton. And by the way, I'm looking at Stanton on the TV right now. So, that's what you guys need to do. And I'm not going to accept anything less. I don't have a big following right now, but maybe by July I'll have a lot bigger of a following, and people that are Cardinal fans like me will also start saying the same things that I am. And a lot of them already are. So, your time is up. We need to start winning. This has been a franchise with a legacy of winning. And in the past 2 years, we haven't made the playoffs. Yeah, we got close. Okay, we got close, but that's because of the talent that we have. The talent that's been mismanaged by Matheny hasn't been hitting a lot due to John Mabry, who's still there. You got rid of, what the hell was his name? The pitching coach from last year. But he really wasn't the problem. And you did bring in Mike Maddox, so Mike Maddox has proven to be a good pitching coach. But a good pitching coach won't win you ball games when the offense isn't producing and when the manager makes shit decisions. So shape up and shape up now. That's all I'm going to say about that. St. Louis Cardinals, I love you guys to death. I'm never going to stop loving you guys to death. But I will be pissed and I will speak my mind. All right. So, on to other things. I think that was a pretty good angry rant there, right, guys? Pretty good angry rant. Maybe not the best, but pretty good. So, if you guys remember, 5 years ago, the Miami Dolphins were pretty much caught up in a big bullying scandal where they basically ended up suspending their offensive lineman, Richie Incognito, because another offensive lineman named Johnathan Martin was claiming that Richie Incognito, another lineman, namely Mike Pouncey was one of them, was bullying him. Which is, again, I said it back then, and I didn't have this show, so if you guys didn't hear me say it back then you might not believe me, and I really don't care one way or another. But, you know, he's a big dude. He can handle himself. At this stage of his life, if he's getting bullied, it's because he wants to be bullied at this point. But here's Johnathan Martin. It's what he looked like when he played for the Miami Dolphins. Like I said, Incognito got suspended by the team. And Johnathan Martin basically sat out the rest of the year. After that, he got traded over to the San Francisco 49ers. They ended up trading him to Carolina. When he was with Carolina, he didn't play at all, not one snap. He basically sat out due to injury and then retired after that year, citing a back injury. So he's always had a bit of an issue, really, is the best way to put it. I'm turning up my volume a little bit because I don't know if you guys are hearing me all that well. So, anyways, so Richie Incognito ends up basically getting released from the Dolphins, going over to Buffalo, and having a stellar career with the Bills. He's still known as being kind of a knuckle dragger, kind of being a bully, a hard ass, that kind of a guy. But if he was bullying Johnathan Martin back then, well, incidents that happen today kind of go to vindicate him, really. You see, while Johnathan Martin checked himself into a hospital today in Los Angeles, which is where he's from, to get mental help. That's not an issue. If he's having mental issues, then yes, he needs to be in a mental hospital getting himself checked. The other day, he posted on social media that it was very hard growing up in the area of Los Angeles that he did, where he was living in a rich, predominantly white community as a half black, half white big man. And he found himself getting bullied because he was half black, half white, and really big. Never mind the fact that he was the star of the football team out there where he went to high school. And school's name is, what is it again? Harvard Westlake. It was a private school. Well, earlier today, he posted to Instagram, and I'm going to show you guys the post right now. And this is scary as scary can be, considering what happened just over a week ago. This was his post. A shotgun with a bunch of shells, and in the small writing on the left, it says, when you're a bully victim and a coward, your only options are suicide or revenge. On the gun, he has hashtag Harvard Westlake, or at Harvard Westlake, at Miami Dolphins, and then there at the top he has at James Dunleavy, who is he's now I think he plays college basketball now, but he was a high school basketball player a few years ago for that same school. At TJ Taylor, my guess is that's Jason Taylor. I looked up the Twitter address and I couldn't find it, but I'm assuming that's Jason Taylor, the Hall of Fame defensive end for the Miami Dolphins. At 6'8 Incognito, at Mike Pouncey. So, someone saw this, called the authorities, and was saying that Johnathan Martin was planning to go to his high school and shoot it up. Johnathan Martin is now a 28-year-old man. A 28-year-old man who is still bigger than 90%, if not more, than the entire rest of the country. And he's still playing this victim role. I'm not saying that he didn't get a lot of shit when he was with the Dolphins. But at the same time, if this was his mentality back then, this kind of crazy shit, then you know what? I don't necessarily blame Richie Incognito or Mike Pouncey for doing the stuff that they did to him. Because he's playing a victim. He's insane, obviously. By this post, he is obviously insane. This is the kind of shit that cannot stand. Especially, like I said, what happened just over a week ago down in Parkland, Florida. This shit cannot stand. The authorities did not arrest him. They made sure he checked into the hospital. He's being overseen by the hospital staff. And as soon as he gets out, I'm assuming that LAPD will arrest him, possibly charge him with something like a terrorist threat. I'm hoping he spends a long time either in prison or at the very least in that same mental hospital. This is, again, the kind of shit that is going on in this country right now where everybody wants to play like they've been victimized. I understand that there are bullies. I'm not saying that there's not. But if you're a 6'5", I think he was like 6'8", 300-pound man, there is no reason in the world for you to continue to be a bully, especially when you're a football player and your whole job as an offensive lineman is to bully around the smaller defensive lineman trying to get in there to sack your quarterback. You were a standout in high school. You were a standout at Stanford University. Stanford University, one of the greatest universities in the country as far as academics and athletics go. And then you get drafted in the NFL, and this is the kind of shit that you pull. You know what, Johnathan Martin? I swear to God, I hope anybody that sympathized with you back then are now saying, holy shit, we should not have sympathized with this guy. He's a nutcase. Because you are a nutcase. You are a nutcase. You don't deserve to be in the outside world right now. You need to either be in a mental institution or preferably, and I'm saying my preference for you, would be in prison. Because this is horrendous. The school went on lockdown today. They didn't go on lockdown. They closed due to an emergency that they haven't really come forth and said what the emergency is. I'm 99% sure that that's what the emergency was. They told everyone to stay home until the situation is evaded. And so right now it looks like it has. I am hoping to God that LAPD doesn't drop the ball like the FBI did down there in Florida, as well as other law officials down there in Florida. But this is the stuff that cannot stand in this society. This is the stuff that gives everybody a bad name other than the person who is really the bad person. In that case, it was that dickhead whose name won't be mentioned. In this case, it is Johnathan Martin. And the only reason I'm mentioning Johnathan Martin is because you can Google him and see a bunch of stuff on him as a football player too. So, Johnathan Martin, you are a piece of crap. I'm trying to cut out the profanity right now. I'm not saying Richie Incognito deserves an apology. I'm just saying I understand. You need to spend the next 10 years at the very least alone in a room, rethinking your life, realizing that you went and spoiled everything that you had going for you as an NFL player. Because even in the NFL, guess what? You let this victimhood get to you, and you decided to be a pretty shit ball player. So that's gone. You're never going to get that back. You ruined that. Nobody else did. Thank you, Kirk, for sharing the video, buddy. Nobody else ruined your opportunity but you. So, rethink your life over the next 10 years. Come out and realize that there is no reason for me to be acting like a victim when I am at least 6'8" and 300 pounds. That's it. That is it. I'm done talking about you. If you had gone through with this, then I swear to God, I would hope that every law enforcement officer in the country would have hunted you down and just humiliated you before they executed you. Period. I know I got a little harsh there. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten that harsh, but you know what? This man deserves it after what happened last week to do this kind of crap this week. This goes to what I've been saying about that situation is it's these people with these mental illnesses, we'll call them, have gotten this copycat mentality where if they can't get the respect out of the world that they feel they deserve, even though they have done absolutely nothing to earn it, then they're going to get fear out of everybody. That's exactly what that is. That's exactly why you're a sick individual, Johnathan Martin. That's exactly why you're going to be roasting in hell next to Adolf Hitler. I swear to God. I wasn't all that sympathetic towards you then. I'm definitely not at all sympathetic towards you now. And anybody that was sympathetic towards you back when that stuff was going on with Richie Incognito, I hope they rethink what they were thinking and say, you know what? This guy is not a victim. He's a crazy person. Because that's exactly what you are, Johnathan Martin. You're a crazy son of a bitch who does not deserve to see the light of day for at least 10 years. My wish would be ever again. Am I wrong on that in any way, guys? Am I wrong there? Am I being mean to him or anything? I mean, I'll give him kudos. At least he turned himself into the hospital before he did anything stupid. But for this to have even happened, for him to have even posted this, is disgusting. It's unacceptable inhumanity. And he really, really, really needs to not see civilization for the next 10 years. Period. So am I wrong in any way there, guys? Am I wrong? Am I getting too mean with him? Am I being a bully myself? I mean, I'm 5'7", I like to tell people, 150 pounds. This guy's twice the weight of me, more than a foot taller than me, and he's an offensive lineman. Played in the NFL. I don't think I'm really being a bully to him. I'm just telling him how it is. This life is hard, dude. Life is hard. And you grew up in a rich white neighborhood in Los Angeles, so maybe you don't know how hard it is. But to start blaming the people that you grew up with for making your life hard, you're out of your damn mind, dude. You're out of your damn mind. Especially when everybody in that neighborhood loved you because of the fact that you were the star football player. So stop that right now. It doesn't count anymore. You are a sucky individual. All right. So let's go and move on to, I guess, happier news. Maybe happier. So since, well, the investigation's been going on longer than that, but in September, the FBI filed charges against several individuals who are involved in the black market of college basketball. One of those people was a former player of the San Antonio Spurs, Chuck Person. I think he played for the Spurs. Yeah, if he didn't, then I remember him playing basketball, but I think he was a Spur for at least a year. Was one of those that was arrested. Louisville fired their head coach, the legendary Rick Pitino, and the athletic director for being involved in this. And a lot of names were dropped then. However, today, the FBI leaked a lot of documents, and I was going to post those pictures, but when I emailed them to myself, apparently they didn't email over. I guess the files were too big or something. I don't know. And so, I have them on my phone, but I'm not going to even worry about doing that again. But what this is something named Andy Miller had an agency company, a sports agency company, called ASM, in which he was basically paying players to go to different colleges to play basketball, to sign up with different athletic apparel companies like Adidas for one, to basically make money off of them in the long run. Now, a lot of the names that were brought up weren't paid a substantial amount of money. There were some that were, like one I saw was paid, I want to say, 700 something thousand. Another one was paid 73,000. But there was other guys that were getting loans like 2,000 and below, from the sports agency, which is very much against the NCAA amateur rules. Now, several institutions also came up as being part of this, and this is going to hurt Spurs fans too. Although I'm not sure he's going to face any criminal charges, but the current Alabama basketball head coach, Avery Johnson, that Avery Johnson, the little general, his name has been kind of tossed around by the media, not so much by the FBI or the NCAA, but by the media, is possibly being in trouble for this. Another name that a lot of people are thinking is definitely going to be in trouble for this is Bruce Pearl, the head coach at Auburn, who Auburn this year has pretty much secured the regular season SEC title. Then some players that were involved, current players, were Duke's Wendell Carter, Alabama's Colin Sexton. That's where Avery Johnson kind of falls into this. Michigan State's Miles Bridges. And being that Michigan State has someone fallen into this, a name that came out during the initial documents of the FBI release was Tom Izzo, the head basketball coach at Michigan State. His name also came out in the sexual assault allegations against Michigan State as being complicit in his players sexually assaulting young ladies on the campus, as well as Mark D'Antonio, the head football coach. So honestly, I think Tom Izzo's pretty much on his way out there. And then there's also some former players that came up, and none of these names sound familiar to me. I'm not a big basketball fan, so that could be why. Maybe these guys are some big names in the world of, in the NBA. I'm not sure. But Kentucky's Bam Adebayo, NC State's Dennis Smith, University of Washington's Markelle Fultz are just some of the names that came out of current basketball or former college ball players in these documents. And another name that came out that's he might be facing federal charges for bribery and corruption. That's what these charges are, guys, of bribery and corruption. Is one of the Adidas top dogs, a guy named Jim Gatto. Now, this doesn't sit well with the NCAA. This doesn't sit well with college basketball fans. This could really go and hurt the tournament this year that's coming up here in just a few weeks. The NCAA tournament, the Final Four tournament, the big one. This could really go on to hurt that. Because some of the players that I named right now as current players might be having to sit out the tournament, might be having to sit out the rest of their college career. Granted, the NCAA does have a rule that if it's, I believe it was $200 or less, they can pay it back and then they'll be absolved of any wrongdoing. But if it's over $200, then they get suspended from college basketball, and so that could basically ruin their college basketball careers. The good thing about that for them, I guess, is that the NBA holds that you only have to have 1 year of college basketball before you're eligible to be in the NBA. So, but if they didn't have a good year this year, then that could really end up hurting them if they want to get in the NBA later down the line. So, I mean, they could take some out routes to it, say like go play in Europe or something. Why not? The Ball family's doing that. So, all of this can really, really hurt the college basketball. Several of these teams might even be forced to sit out. And I mean, so far they haven't named, but they had a mini selection show the other day on, I believe it was on ESPN, where they selected 16 teams that they know are going to be in. Well, already half of those teams are named in these documents. So that can go to massively hurt the NCAA tournament. Mark Emmert, and I'm going to bring up his picture again. Where's he at? Oh, I guess I didn't load him on here. Well, never mind. I'm really bad with pictures tonight. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I didn't load up any of the second basemen just because I just didn't feel like it. So that's why that one didn't happen. But Mark Emmert, the guy who I've been saying needs to step down as the president of the NCAA, is vowing to clean up the sport. Here's the problem, Mark Emmert. You should have cleaned up the sexual assault allegations at Michigan State already. You should have done something about that. You didn't. You really expect me to believe that you're going to clean up college basketball? Sorry. Especially when I'm not 100% sure that your name's not going to get brought up in these allegations. I'm not saying that it is, but it wouldn't surprise me. So, anyways, college basketball right now is really in a world of trouble. and there's supposed to be more documents coming out here sometime in the not too distant future, which will probably name other basketball players, other college programs. There's, I guess, always the possibility that this may even bleed over into college football. I hope not. I live, die, and breathe by college football. Other than Major League Baseball, those are my two favorite things in the world, and pro wrestling, Bullet Club for life. Oh, wait, no, we can't do that anymore. Cease and desist order, WWE is crooked. Anyways, so I'm hoping that it doesn't bleed over into college football, but again, that wouldn't surprise me either. If these programs are getting away with this or got away with this in college basketball for as long as they did, then them getting away with it in college football wouldn't surprise me either. So this could very well be the beginning of the end of college athletics. Being that the FBI is involved and arresting people on bribery and corruption charges, yeah, this really does hurt college basketball. And again, if someone says, well, check out what the Alabama football program's been doing, then maybe that could even hurt that as well. Andy Miller, as far as I know, hasn't said anything about being an agent for any college football players. He hasn't been linked to any, as far as I know. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I guess when it comes to equipment deals, which was his biggest thing, basketball is more known for selling, shoes and such than football players are. So that's going to be the thing that's going to end up maybe saving college football, is that he's not able to really get the good athletic gear out there for football players. Although he still could, like things like Under Armour, and I mean, they have good workout gear, that kind of stuff too. So we'll see. But yeah, this really could end up hurting massively the NCAA tournament this year. So I'll keep you up to date as soon as I see something. I'll let you guys know. So all right. So let's go ahead and get into the top 5 second basemen that I would start a Major League Baseball franchise with. And I say top 5, but I actually have 6 on here. The reason I have 6 is because the first 2, I'm kind of on the fence on both of them, simply because we've only got a sample size of what they're capable of. And frankly, I think one of them looked better than the other last year in the small sample size that we got, but I think the other one is going to end up being a massive, huge megastar. So we're going to do number 6 through number 1 instead of number 5 through number 1. Again, I have these pictures uploaded, or was going to upload several others, so I didn't even bother with even downloading pictures for these guys. So I'm sorry about that for tonight, guys. But you can rest assured, on Monday we'll have the top 5 shortstops and pictures of them. So number 6 is going to be the rookie from the Atlanta Braves, Ozzie Albies. He's 21 years old. In the 50-something games that he played last year, he hit .286, had 6 home runs, 28 RBI. He looks like he's going to be a decent offensive threat. He's a really good defensive second baseman. He's supposed to be the long-term double play combination with Dansby Swanson at shortstop for the Braves. So Dansby Swanson has to kind of put things together too, though. So, but if they both end up being really good, they're going to be a really good double play combination and could end up winning a National League title here or there, just between the two of them and whoever else the Braves can pick up, if they can get some young pitching in there to improve as well. So watch out for Ozzie Albies. But number 5 is the guy who I think is going to be a megastar in the major leagues, a guy out of Cuba. He's a 22-year-old from the Chicago White Sox, Yoan Moncada. In his small sample size last year, he only hit .229, but he did have 8 home runs with 23 RBI. So he's got power. He's got a lot of speed. He can play defense. He can play several different positions. He's officially a second baseman, but they can put him at third. They can put him at short. He's a big, strong guy who is extremely athletic, and so I really expect him to be the new Manny Machado. And so that's why I have him on here as number 5 over Ozzy Albies. Number 4 is a guy who's been around for a few years. And it's a guy that we all know can throw a mean right hook because of what he did to Joey Bats a couple years ago. Rougned Odor from the Texas Rangers, 24 years old. Last year, his batting average fell off quite a bit. He's normally around the 260 to 270 range. Last year, he only hit 204. But he did have 30 home runs. He did have 75 RBI. He is a small guy with a lot of power. Pretty good fielding second baseman. And I think that the Rangers kind of need to build the team around him in order to get back to the prominence that they had back in the earlier parts of this decade. So Rougned Odor is number 4. Number 3, a guy who's made a lot of splash here in the last couple of years. 25-year-old from the Chicago Cubs, Javier Baez. He's 25 years old, hit 273 last year, 23 home runs, 75 RBI. He was, in my opinion, the most stable offensive player for the Cubs last year. He was a little streaky, I guess, from here and there, but he never really got on a huge bad streak. I think he can improve that 273. I think he can hit on a regular basis right around 300. I think the 23 homers are just going to go up. I think he's going to hit somewhere in the area of 30 from this point forward. We'll have to see. I know the girls love him, so maybe that's an endorsement for him, or not an endorsement, but an incentive for him to start hitting more long balls. Now, here's the thing that I've been doing, and I've been telling you guys this, is that my theory behind starting up a expansion franchise would be to flood the team with young talent that I can build with, and in 5 to 10 years, I'd start competing for a World Series title. And so these last 2 guys, number 2 and number 1, are guys who have actually been around for a little bit, but they both started when they were really young. And so you still have about a good 10 years out of them at least. And that is the 26-year-old second baseman from the Baltimore Orioles, Johnathan Scope, who really came into his own last year. He had the best year of his career, hit 293, had 32 home runs, 105 RBI. He ended up being I believe he was on the All-Star team last year. He's a really good ball player who the Orioles might consider making a trade for if they're not competing by the trade deadline. I know they're already talking about trading Manny Machado if that's the case with him as well. But they still have Adam Jones. They still have Scope. They still have Trumbo. They still have Crush Davis. So they need some pitching, which is something that 2-3 years ago you weren't saying about Baltimore. They had a lot of pitching. But if they can get some pitching, then you'll actually hear a lot more of Johnathan Scope because of how good he actually is. So that leads me to number 1, the number 1 second baseman that I would start a franchise with if I were the GM of an expansion franchise. And that is, Houston Astros fans, you're going to love this one, Jose Altuve. He is only 27 years old. It seems like he's been playing forever, but he's only 27 years old. Last year he put up MVP-type numbers, 346, 24 homers, 81 RBI. In fact, I think he was the MVP last year. He's definitely the heart and soul of the World Series champion Houston Astros. He's not going anywhere. He's going to stay there in Houston probably for the rest of his life. When his contract comes up, they're going to sign him to a $300 million deal. No doubt in my mind. If they don't, then they're utterly stupid. Jose Altuve is possibly the best player in the game. I still say it's Bryce Harper, then Mike Trout, and then I'd put Jose Altuve underneath them. But you can definitely make an argument for Jose Altuve being the best player in the game. So, little bitty guy, he's shorter than I am, but he packs a punch. He's a great fielder. He's a great hitter. He gets on base quite a bit. You can tell by that 346 batting average. For a guy as small as he is, 24 home runs. That's amazing. Especially because Minute Maid Park is not a small park. It's not as big as, say, what they have in Oakland or what they have in Miami, but it's still a pretty decent-sized park. So to hit 24 home runs at his size in that park, that says a lot. So, again, one of the 3 best players in the game, in my opinion. And we all know that my opinion is the most important. I think we've all pretty much, decided to agree with that one. So, yes. So, Jose Altuve is probably the guy that I would start a franchise with, period. Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. Yeah, okay. There's arguments for all 3 there. So, all right, guys. Am I wrong about anything tonight? Am I wrong on my bashing of St. Louis Cardinals ownership? I'm a Cardinal fanatic. Anybody that knows me knows I guess we all bleed red, but I bleed Cardinal red. But I am not happy with the way that they conducted this offseason. I think they should be ashamed by it. Johnathan Martin is a scum of the earth punk who, in my opinion, deserved to be bullied by Richie Incognito the way he was. Honestly, because I think it was probably already that whacked out, and Incognito didn't know what to make of him, so he made fun of him. As well as Mike Pouncey. And if that Instagram photo here, I'm going to bring that up again for any of you that missed it. In case you guys weren't here or when I did it earlier. Oh wait, no, there it is right there. This is the photo that he Instagrammed today. Again, there on the left-hand side in red, it says, "When you're a bully victim and a coward, your options are suicide or revenge." Has a shotgun, his shotgun, surrounded by shotgun shells. On the gun, it's at Harvard Westlake, which is the high school he went to, at Miami Dolphins, and then up top there at James Dunleavy, at what I think is Jason Taylor, at Richie Incognito, at Mike Pouncey. So he's right now in a mental hospital being checked, and if they release him, I hope they release him into the hands of the Los Angeles Police Department, and the Los Angeles Police Department filed charges on him right away for at the very least, a terroristic threat. So am I wrong for everything that I said about him earlier? I think he's a real scumbag. At the time when all that was going on, I felt a little pity for him when he was playing with the Dolphins. But at the same time, I was saying to myself, you're a 6'8", 300-plus pound guy. You should be able to handle yourself, dude. And I know that there's going to be a lot of victim advocates out there that would disagree with me completely and start saying that I'm a bad person. But in all honesty, yes, I think he should have been able to handle himself there. Let me see. Maybe I turn my volume down a little bit because it doesn't look like it's popping up as much. Let me see. I'm going to test this out first before I continue. Okay, we'll see. Where am I at now? Nope. Okay, back up. So, yes. So, Johnathan Martin, yes, scumbag who deserves at least 10 years in this mental hospital or 10 years in prison. I say life in prison. When it's a week after what happened there in Parkland, Florida, you do not post shit like that and get away with it at all. You do not make threats to your old high school just because you felt you got bullied in high school. You do not, especially when none of the people that you went to high school with are even there anymore, dude. You do not threaten to shoot and kill your former teammates on the Miami Dolphins, a guy that you went to high school with named James Dunleavy, and the high school and the entire football team that you played with. You do not do that kind of shit, especially after all that happened last week. So you're a scumbag, Johnathan Martin. I don't feel bad for you at all. My dad was saying earlier he wishes that they would give him 5 minutes with Richie Incognito and let Richie Incognito beat the shit out of him. I kind of wish that too. So yeah, there's that. And then the final thing that we talked about tonight was the college basketball case. FBI charges filed were filed back in September. Some more documents have been released. Some names that have been kicked around as possible targets for further charges. Not saying by the FBI or by the any of the reports that I read, but by people in the media saying that possible names that are also going to possibly be filed for charges of bribery and corruption. Possibly. I'm not saying any of these are. So don't say that Adam said no, I did not. I'm just saying some names that I've heard kicked around are Bruce Pearl from Auburn and Avery Johnson from Alabama, as well as Tom Izzo from Michigan State. So that could be big. Some of these players that have been named could basically see their college basketball careers end, and that could also end any chance of being in the NBA, especially when it's almost like, and I don't want to blame the NBA for anything with that exactly, but with their rules, they only require 1 year of college ball before you can be drafted in the NBA. I think that's going to end up hurting them, possibly as well. And this definitely goes to hurt the NCAA tournament coming up here in a few weeks. And then lastly, my top 6 second basemen were Ozzie Albies of the Atlanta Braves, Yoan Moncada of the Chicago White Sox, Rougned Odor of the Texas Rangers, Javier Baez of the Chicago Cubs, Jonathan Scope of the Baltimore Orioles, and Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros. You guys, if you were still here, I hope you guys have a great night. Again, it's Friday night. Go out, have a good time. Don't drive home drunk off your ass. I don't want to hear about you guys on Facebook tomorrow morning being in a drunk driving accident or anything like that. You guys have a great night. I love you all. And as always, besos.